Hey guys, welcome back to another sit down video. Guys, today we are going to talk about the factors that you should consider when you choose the state that you wanna come start your life with in the US. So let's get right into the video. Some of you have been inboxing me, some of you have been asking here which kinds of state are good to come start your life with here in the US, and today I want to answer that. And most of the time, like for example my agency, when they wanted to look for an assignment for me, they asked me, give us your top 3 states that you will wish to stay in when you come to the US. And so they give you that chance to research, and after some time you go back with an like they call you and you tell them which states you've chosen to come stay with, and then they will look for assignments basing on those states, although they tell you that it might not be exactly what you'll get because it depends on which state has like a job opening or an assignment for healthcare providers. So they will consider your 3 states as they are looking for an assignment for you. So most of the time when most of the people are asked that, they become excited, they are happy, because when you think of the states, and especially from the movies, you think of California, you think of New York, because those are the glamorized states that we see all over. Because if you haven't come here, if you haven't lived in the US before, most of the time you don't know most of these states, you just know the famous states, and those states are usually glamorized and they look like the perfect world. But then when you think of staying there, especially as a person who has just come to live in the US for the first time, that may not be so convenient for you, especially for your financial, like for your finances and everything. So it's good to consider which kind of states you wanna go live in, and there are several factors that I wished I knew before coming here. Now I don't regret choosing the state that I'm in right now, which is Georgia, but somehow I do regret, and it's not my fault, but it's just the location of Georgia that I'm living in. But Georgia is one of the states that has is rated among the US like states that are manageable to live in, like among the cheap states in the US. So I don't regret choosing it because that is my research, according to the research that I did. But the location that I'm close to Atlanta, and Atlanta is actually expensive, so that makes where I stay a little bit expensive in terms of rent. But I don't regret choosing Georgia, because I chose Georgia because I did my due diligence. But then the place that they placed me is among the expensive parts of Georgia. So that wasn't really my fault, but it's okay. I'm already here and I'll work with where I am right now. But then I want to give you guys some of the factors that you should consider when you are researching for the states that you wish to come live in the US on your first assignment. Because when you are with an agency, the agency pays you, the hospital pays the agency, and the agency pays you, and the agency will take part of the money that they helped you during the process. They will like you have to pay back to the agency. So you won't get the whole salary as the US nurse unless you came in on a direct hire. But if you came in with an agency, of course you won't get the whole amount of money that you're supposed to get per hour. So you should really consider when you are choosing the kind of state that you want to live in. So all that rambling aside, let's go into these factors that you should consider when looking at the state that you want to live in. The first and most important thing to consider is the cost of living. The cost of living, guys, is very important, because most of the time when you sign a contract with an agency, whether or not you're going to which state, most of the time they will give you the same rate as the person who has gone to a cheaper state and you who have gone to a state with high cost of living. It doesn't really make a difference. So you might as well just choose a state that has low cost of living and go start your life there, so that you can know the state, you can know how United States work, the taxes, the fuel cost, they differ with states. So just look for a state that is among the cheap states and affordable, and you can start your life there. And after your contract, of course, you will have maybe gone to school and you have better papers, or also your pay will be up because you are no longer with the agency, so you are not bound by any contract, so you can able to negotiate your salary. Then you can move to that state of your dream, that glamorous state. But I will advise you to just look at a state that the cost of living is low. And by cost of living, I'll want you to look at the rent. Very important. Look at the rent in that state. There are so many good states that have low cost of living with a rent of below 1,000 in one bedroom house, but some of these states have a rent of close to 2,000 in one bedroom state. So you wouldn't want to put yourself in a situation that you are paying 2,000 in a one bedroom when you could have paid 700 somewhere else with the same salary in a one bedroom. So just keep that into consideration. Another thing with the cost of living is the cost of fuel wherever you are going, the taxes, because I've realized that these US different states have different kinds of taxes, and some states don't have taxes at all. Like they don't tax their food, they don't tax their fuel. Like the only thing that they might tax is the state, the government tax, I think, something like that, that they take away from your paycheck. But these other state tax, whatever taxes, they don't do that. So just research about the taxes in the state that you are going in, because that will impact on how your cost of living will be like. Another thing that you might need to consider is if you have kids, look at the child care tax, something like that, in that state. So if it's high, it means that you'll get taxes from your money for child care. So, and also I think if you don't have kids, I don't know if this applies, but I know that child care is something in these states, and you should consider that when you are moving, especially if you have kids. Another thing is the health care. Look at the health care costs in that state. If they are below the national average if they are way above, it means that will be expensive. And if you have like health issues, because some of us can have chronic issues, health issues, that could be a thing to consider when you're looking at this the state you want to move in. That is the cost of living. And also look at the cost of utilities, because I've realized that food. The same price that you might buy food here in Atlanta, it could be different if you buy the same thing in California or in Florida. It's different. So put that in mind. I know it is a lot to research, but there is a lot of information out there. Even on YouTube, there is a lot of YouTube channels that are looking into the cost of living according to every year, according to states in the US. So you can just go through that and make your own informed decision. Okay, another factor that you should consider, you might want to consider when choosing the state that you want to live in, is the weather and the climate. Now, the US has a very diverse different kind of weathers. There are the states that are very cold, there are states that are very hot, and there are states that are just intermediate. Like for Georgia is kind of like just in between. It doesn't snow. That is I haven't been here for so long, but that is according to the research. It doesn't really snow like those heavy snows. So if you like just a moderate weather, look for those states. If you like cold, look for those states. If you like heat, you like being in a very warm, hot state, look for those states. Because I know there is Arizona, and there are people who are going to Arizona and it's hot. Yeah, look for those states according to your own preference. There are people who maybe have medical conditions that might not allow them to live in very cold states, like the asthmatic people. Look for those states that are favorable to you and your family as you choose these states. Yes, you might look at a state that has a low cost of living, but at the same time you look at the weather, and the weather is harsh, like it's very harsh cold or very harsh hot. So just put that in mind as you are looking into whatever state that you want to go live in. Another thing that I will want you to consider when you're looking at these states is the community, and if you have any family or friend in that state. Now, this is very important. And you see, the US, when you come in and you are a new person, you come from a totally different place, and you're coming to a very different environment, and you know nobody. Life can be so hard on you. Life can be lonely. Life can be like challenging. Like you have nobody to show you around. You have nobody to like talk to. You have nobody to relate to. So look at that state that at least people. I know you guys, there are people who at least have people who they know they have relocated here in the US, or they have family here, or they have friends. Yeah, just know where you want to go. If you have relatives somewhere in that state, request for the agency to put you in that state so that you are close to people who can be your support system. If you're looking for a place that has a lot of like the African community, look for those states that have that. And I'm very sure your agency, if you give them that as a reason why you would want that state, they wouldn't like mind putting you there if there is an opportunity there. So that is a very important thing, very important part of if you want to choose a state that you want to go in. And especially for people who have kids, you want your kids to have like playmates. You want your kids to grow around a community that is familiar to them, because you have different values. If you go to, maybe let's say you are an African like me and you go to a predominantly white population, that may not be so friendly to your kid, because kids are not mature enough. They don't understand, but they will really want people who like look like them, who understands where they've come from. For you, grown up, you might, you know we are different, but we can coexist with our differences. But it might be hard on your children to cope. So just put that in mind as you are considering the state that you wanna go settle in for the first few years that you are on contract, as you figure out where you want to stay in the long run. Okay, another thing that you really want to consider is the security. Now, this is an issue with everywhere. Even back in Africa where you live, there are better towns and cities that are good and secure. There are other places that are insecure. So if you are considering a state, of course every state has its crime rates, and it has those cities in it that are more prone to crime and others are less prone to crime. So just do your due diligence. There is a site that is called, I think, neighborhood.com, something like that. I'll put it on the screen. I think it's paid for, but if you are into really knowing exactly how secure your place is, you can look into that. Use the neighborhood.com and you'll see the number of sex offenders that are there, crime rates and all that, because security is very important. And I'm very sure, totally sure, that your agency will not place you in somewhere that is not secure. And even if you're looking for a house, they might help you to, if they see that you've gotten a house that is close to like a place that is not safe, they will tell you. So just put that into consideration as you are looking at this, the state to move in. Another thing that you have to put in mind is your family. Like, let's say you have a spouse and they may not be in your job circle, so you might want to live in a place that you can maximize the chances of them getting a job. So you don't want to go live in somewhere very remote that it will be so hard for them to get jobs and things like that. So you might put them into consideration as you are looking for not really the state, but that can be the place you want to live. Especially if your hospital is somewhere, you want to consider like the far that you can go from that hospital as you consider yourself and your spouse or maybe your children, because some of us, you'll come with children that are 20 years plus. They might need to get some jobs for themselves. So just put that into consideration. Okay, the last thing that I will want you to consider when choosing the state that you want to live in, you want to consider in the long run, what do you want to do after you finished your contract? If you are a person who really doesn't want to move from, like, you want this state and that is it, you'll be there maybe for 10 years before you decide anything, it's better you look at that state, and if you think it is a state that you can really withstand in the long run, which is not that important, because if you are a nurse, in the US, nurse jobs are very, this shortage is actually real. So there's no way you will be finished with your contract and you don't get a job in a different state. So if that is something you can consider, that is just a miscellaneous that I've added. But you might want to consider that as you are looking at these states. So that is it, guys, for this video. I hope I've put some insight on what to consider when you are looking for the state that you want to start your life here with, because life here, guys, it can be challenging. Bills are real. Like at the end of the month, if you are not used to bills, back in Kenya you had your own house and all that, just know that here bills are real. You have your house rents, you have insurances to pay, and those are the car, the motor insurances, the renters insurances. You might need to pay your medical insurance, medical cover. There are utility bills in your unit. You have to pay maybe for water, your sewer, garbage collection. You have to pay all that, and those things you don't compromise. In the US, if you don't pay rent this month, next, it may be not even take a month, and they will serve you with a notice to vacate the premises. So you don't want that to be your situation, and also you want to have something left in your account as you are juggling this life until you are stable and you've saved enough. And so just put that into consideration. Don't be so carried away by the fact that you are choosing a state and you want to choose the most glamorous one, the perfect one. Consider so many things before you give those 3 states that you have selected. And also just know that, and this is actually a disclaimer, just know that the fact that they've given you a state with low cost of living, you might end up in a city in that state that actually has among the high costs of living in the US. Because I know that New York is very expensive, but I know that there are some parts of it that are very cheap. I know that you can get like Georgia is among the cheap states, but then if you live in Atlanta, is among the expensive cities in the US. So it's actually just where you are going to land. So as you're considering the state, also pray for the hospital that will accept you in that state, so that you are in a place that is favorable for you, for your pocket. So that is it, guys. That is what I wanted to talk to you about today, and I hope that I have put some insight in what you really need to know about choosing a state that you wanna come live in. That being said, I want to say I'll see you in the next sit down video or vlog. Bye.